Among other hyphenated terms, Kin is a Viking-inspired, party-based, dungeon-crawling action RPG, with the blood of Diablo, Torchlight, and perhaps a bit of Baldur's Gate in its veins. You play up to 6 Magni warriors, the biggest and spellcastiest Nords of them all, fighting an escalating war over holy magic trinkets. Well, we've all been there. There are some in-your-face flaws, mostly in the progression and map design, but drifting into the writing at times, and I'll walk you through all of that. But tweak the settings in your playstyle, and Kin might be the most fun you'll have till the industry wakes up in September. Stop thinking about stats, Kin wants you killing things now. The usual RPG spreadsheet is split simply into mind, body, and control. Spells, punching, and attack speed, in other words. Apart from the odd point here or there to meet weapon requirements, you can safely pump everything into a single stat, and anytime you're in town you can reset and readjust however you damn well please. You don't need to be an accountant to get the most out of each level gained. Kin wants you out fighting. In the thick of it, Kin demands a lot. From 30 seconds into the tutorial, it expects you to know the 3 moves and key bindings of both your starting warriors. Later, you'll amass up to 6. It's the sort of system we've seen most recently in Pillars of Eternity, with one colossal difference. You can't pause to plan your moves. You can only slow time, and that power is a resource. Spend too long panicking over which spell is which, and time will speed right back up, and you will be fucked, my son. Kin keeps things moving, and when it works you will be on edge, pulling off last-minute saves in a triumph of judgment and muscle memory. And that is why I cannot recommend the hard modes too highly. Because Kin has balance issues that take the hard-fought, well-earned victories of the first few missions and turn them into a zerg. In addition to the loot fountaining from Kin's every orifice, there is a crafting system wherein raw mats found on missions can be supplemented with vendor-bought extras and combined to make the most ridiculous, excessive, hyperbolic gear in the game. It is not at all hard to craft legendary weapons for a party of 3, turning a fraught battle to survive into an orgy of right-clicks and auto-attacks. There's no question that the level requirements on the weapons are way off. This kind of firepower just shouldn't be available until 2 or 3 missions later than it currently is. It takes Kin's skill-based spellbook and makes it an optional extra. Plowing through on normal, it was disappointing that I didn't have to test myself. Because I think that's a niche there, a dungeon crawler which depends every bit on player skill as much as their magpie-like loot reflex. But surprisingly, despite right-clicking more than the caffeinated Parkinson sufferer, I didn't get bored. The primal kick of melting your foes and taking their shit is strong as ever. But Kin brings ideas of its own to the table. Splitting the party is its best invention. There's an inspired level in which 3 of your men have to go on a rampage outside the entrance to a prison, while the 4th goes in on a one-man guerrilla mission to get the gate open. It limits the obscene power of a party bearing crafted items. It stresses you out, and thus brings back that feeling of relief and reward when you make it through. And it highlights the importance Kin places on movement and positioning. Friendly pathing, a notoriously difficult thing to get right, I mean just watch my Interstellaria review, is pretty damn good. I had a couple of chaps get stuck behind a cart, but what they get up to on their own time is their business. And Kin is big on the environmental puzzles, on traps and fire pits and logical conundrums, which if anything could do with more screen time. Until the Zerg phase kicks in, Kin forces you to think of your party as individuals to properly position in and out of combat. And look at that view, Kin is gorgeous. High-res environment textures married with the exaggerated style of Torchlight and WoW, and I think I caught a bit of Kingdoms of Amalur in there too. all set to a stonking soundtrack by Will Bedford. Have a listen. Devs Tangerine make great use of vertical space to bring a sense of scale to the sort of game where isometric cameras leave me feeling a bit claustrophobic. But what really gets me is the variation. They do recycle biomes, for lack of a better word, so you'll see a forest by day and a forest by night, but there aren't any copy-paste jobs. Each mission has a bespoke and, as established, damn fine map. So even though you're dungeon crawling, you never know what you'll be crawling through before you set off. These are huge spaces that Tangerine are okay with discarding after a single visit. Arguably too big. Size isn't everything, said the Magnite of the Giant, and most levels suffer for their amount of dead space. Areas of cities, glaciers and forests where there's just nothing happening. A dungeon crawler should never want to break flow. Empty fields are completely at odds with the marauding, loot-hoovering bloodlust Kin tries to instill. Kill that! Explode them! Pillage this! Enjoy a tranquil walk through the countryside! The worst instance, or at least the one you can't help but notice every time you return home, was the decision to put crafting supplies on the other side of town to the blacksmith. It's like getting home from Asda to find you've forgotten the demon blood, toxic orb, and cat food. I've been saving the story till last because the context for your hacking and slashing isn't really all that important. It's the standard warring factions struggling over world-ending magic shinies, this time called tries, and it all has an air of fan fiction about it. Maybe the magic got lost in translation because the word try just doesn't have any fantasy weight to my mind. It's no Triforce, it's no Nethicite, it's no atomic bomb. And though there are cursory attempts at ethical dilemmas concerning slavery and the nature of human consciousness, they're rather spoiled by incongruous NPC behaviour and the offhand reactions of your characters. But context, as I've said, isn't all that important. It didn't matter to me why I was marauding, just that marauding was intensely tactical, fraught with danger, and great fun. Undeniably, it suffers for its janky gear curve, but if you're willing to play at the hardest difficulties, then Kin is a solid action RPG that does its best to keep the pace up and includes some excellent innovations of its own. Bravely fought.